All right, so we're talking about paradigm shifts, like big changes that happen in your day to day, or you're forced to basically change the way that you approach things. Um, so I'm going to be entering parenthood here in a few days. So that is my paradigm shift at present, right? And that's going to be a big one. Joe, you have recently gotten into a new job that is full time in addition to the coaching, but that job is also like upside down in terms of hours. Okay, so you're
Yes,
working
sir.
when most people are sleeping. So we'll dive into all that stuff and kind of, how I'm planning to keep myself sane and, keep myself in a good spot with all the things I have going on, and then, what you've been doing to keep yourself in a good spot. Before we get into that, I wanted to touch on what's going on with the GLPs. So you had messaged me. Where did you see what you saw at? You just were on Modern Aminos?
Yeah, I got an email. It was an email.
And it was just saying like they're just not going to be stocking it anymore?
Yeah, I mean, I guess. Like I said, that was the first. That was the first that I had seen that they just weren't gonna be carrying it anymore after like December 31st. They're doing like a little 30% off sale or whatever. So yeah, that was the first
Yeah.
that I had seen of it. Because I bought there before, so I get their subscription emails.
So I had started hearing about this through like watching YouTube. I forget which podcast I was watching or whatever, but they were talking about how there's going to be a crackdown on the gray market GLPs. Okay, so Ozempic, tirzepatide, um, retatrutide. There are legitimate companies, legal business entities that can sell these things at present through the gray market, I guess, because they're not exactly controlled, right? It's not exactly regulated. And this has gone on for quite a while. Quite a while. But these products are actually patented. They're patented by these big pharmaceutical companies. So, I'm sure they've just been kind of watching in the background, just kind of seeing how much money they're losing with all this. And now it's at a point where they've finally said, like, okay, we've had enough. So I started hearing about this on podcast a few weeks ago. And then sometime earlier this week, maybe, I got an email because I'm an affiliate with Modern Amino. So I got an email and it was like, hey, team, like, just to give you a heads up, we're no longer going to be selling any of the GLPs. So Ozempic, which is semaglutide, tirzepatide, retatrutide, cagrilintide, cagrisemisodium, all of these GLP type peptides, they're gone basically after the 31st. They're just no longer going to be selling them. So I think for a lot of people, it's probably going to be a paradigm shift, right? Because these peptides, these GLP peptides, they work. I was a little bit against them at first before I really started getting educated about them and then using them myself. But at present, my thoughts on them are that they are, particularly retatrutide, amazing. Like, just absolutely amazing from what it does from your appetite and how you think about food, to the fat loss and even blood work, like, improving your lipids, improving your blood glucose. Across the board, I think that if you use these things responsibly and you don't just arbitrarily increase your dose when you don't really need to, I think they can be a really safe and effective tool. But with that, I wonder, like, when these things first kind of popped onto the bodybuilding scene, it was like the same sort of resistance I had, where it was like, we don't need this stuff, and you don't need this stuff. You know what I mean? You don't need it. Like,
Yeah.
people were getting in shape before it, but it makes it a hell of a lot easier. It makes it 100% easier to diet and get in shape. So I wonder, like, if there is going to be any sort of impact on the people that have been really, really relying on this stuff and the ease of access of it through these companies, you know, with it not being as readily available now, you know. So you have a little bit of experience. You started using retatrutide. How long have you been using it?
So I bought 5 weeks worth of it. This would be, I haven't used it the last 2 weeks, so I really only used it for like 3 weeks. And it was just one milligram, one shot per week. And I feel like, I don't know, I think I messaged you about this, but it literally felt like I felt a difference like the next day. I'm sure some of that is like placebo effect, but it really felt like I had no appetite on the dosage that I was taking. And because we're a couple weeks into like this push phase, and I literally was like, I just don't want to take it anymore because it legit feels like I have no appetite. It's like it's making eating the food, even though we've only increased it a little bit, it's already making it harder. So I just
You
did
just
away
pulled it
with
out.
it, you know. Yeah,
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I think so. I have experience with it both in a high calorie environment and a low calorie environment. My first experience with it was in a high calorie environment, I was probably eating over 4,000 calories a day. And I was using about a milligram per week. I started low, I started like half a milligram, and just worked my way up. And, you know, for me, the biggest thing that I noticed was that, so I'm like a lot of people where I'm pretty much like doing stuff all day long, right? And I don't really care about food while I'm doing stuff during the day. I just eat my meals. Like I don't care. Like it's nice if I have nice tasty
yeah,
food, but I'm not like I don't really think about it too much. It's that last meal of the day where like I want to have my tasty stuff. I want to be able to sit down, relax. Like that's my unwind. And that is always the challenging part in the day for me, where I'm kind of having to suppress some of these thoughts that are saying like, go get this thing, go get that thing, go get this thing. And what I noticed
yeah,
was like, that shit was just gone. Like I just didn't care.
yeah,
So I guess they call that the food noise or whatever, you know. And so it's a real thing. Like having that reduction in food noise it's 100% a real thing, and you really almost can't understand it until you experience it, you know. Did you have so much of that, or was it just for you like your appetite was just straight like did you not feel compelled to eat, or did you get full really quickly?
it was a little bit of both. I just wasn't getting the hunger signaling that I normally would. Um, Especially because there was a week where I was legit down like 5 pounds. Like, and normally, and at that weight too, like, I know I should have been starving. Like,
Yeah.
but it was just, I literally just wasn't feeling hungry. I wasn't really craving. I love candy. I love sweets. You know, there's been times where it's like, I'll use, you know, this 25 grams of carbs or whatever it is as just like a little candy or something like that. But there was just literally none of that.
Yeah.
And so it was getting to a point where it's like, okay, yeah, like if I'm not almost having that hunger signaling to remind me to eat, to like I need to like get a meal in, like I would be fine going almost all day without eating. Like that's just what it was.
I think I was actually just watching something, and they were talking about some of the new clinical trial information that's come out with retatrutide, because I guess they're putting it through more studies. So I think it was something like 28% of body weight reduction, like something crazy. So it's massively impactful, you know. Um, it really is. And I look back to like when you were handling my nutrition, there towards the tail end, food got low ish, but on average, the food never really got too low beyond 3,000 calories. I think it was like 2,700 calories was the lowest it got. And I honestly, I have to attribute some of that to just like retatrutide, where like previously I would have had to push my calories lower to get to the level of body composition that I was at. 'Cause I was pretty lean.
Right.
So there's definitely some magic involved in the retatrutide, and it seems like it's almost one of those things where like we have a lot of these tools in this fitness space, right? Where it's like, you know, you still have to work. Like you can't out eat this thing, right? Like you still have to put in the work. And I think that's still true with retatrutide, but I also think that I think it's a really powerful tool. I'll put it that way. You know what I mean? I'll put it that way. I think it's a really powerful tool. So you're no longer using it now, though, huh?
Yeah. Something that's interesting that I want to note about this stuff too is if you've never like injected anything, I guess, like it seems like this big grand thing that's like you're stepping into this whole new world. Like it literally just became like it's just like a thing that I did at once a week and then just like went about my day. Like I besides the changes in like in my hunger or just my appetite, like it's not like my world changed. It's not like, you know.
Yeah. It can seem like that's the thing where sometimes I have clients that they message me and they're like, I was researching this peptide and this thing, and it does this, 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 and this. And I'm like, look, dude, I understand what all this shit says on paper, but it's almost like you create this idea in your head like you're gonna inject this shit and just like and like the next day or something you're just gonna like become God, you know? And it doesn't.
Yeah,
It, you know,
100%.
yeah, it all still takes time. You know, there's nothing that's like light switch. You're gonna inject it and you're just gonna like feel immediately like this thing. Yeah, yeah, I can understand
Yeah,
that.
and I mean, I'm getting plenty of questions because just the people that I talk to on a regular basis, like this stuff would come up, and just like family, girlfriend, just whatever, and I remember like I was at the point where it's like, I'm getting questions like, oh, how do you feel? Like, what's the big? And I'm like, honestly, like I don't. It
It's
doesn't
not like that.
feel any different. Like it's just another thing. It's just a thing that I do, and like that's it. Like,
Yeah, I think if you're using enough of it to where like you're sick, and this is where I think it gets a bad rap because there is a stigma around these things. Um, People feel like, and I'm not even talking about like in fitness, but I'm talking about in just like in general. There's a stigma around these things where people are like, oh, they're on that Ozempic, like they're cheating, or and it's like, and I think a lot of that comes because of like media, where for a while, there was a lot of stuff in the media about like all these crazy side effects and the stomach paralysis and like just crazy stuff, right? And what I've seen is that if you use this responsibly and you only titrate your dose when you need to, it's pretty safe. But if you and so I have a couple clients, like I'm not a doctor, I can't advise you on anything medical, I can't treat you, I can't give you advice that treats any medical condition. I can say this is what I would do, okay? And so although I know that the clinical start dose for retatrutide is 2 milligrams, I'm telling you that I would start at 1 milligram. I would start low and see what happens. Because what happens if you get great results off of 1 milligram? Why would you go to 2 milligrams? Just stay there. Just ride it out. Everything's smooth sailing. But the more aggressive you get with the dosing, trying to get greedy, the more likely you are to run into issues. That's true of anything. That's true of anabolics. That's true of literally anything in life. The more aggressive you get with these things, the faster you push them, the more risk you incur. So start low, assess your tolerance, see what the results are, and then only work these things up when you absolutely need to. I think that's where people run into issues, is that they're on Reddit or they're listening to, because the actual there's actually a dosing schedule for these things, where they say at week 1 you start this at this dose, and then it's an arbitrary titration. 4 weeks later you move to this dose, then this dose, then this dose, then this dose. Just fuck all that. Don't listen to that. Just start low and use as much as you need to get the result that you want, and only move it up when you need to. You know,
And I don't know if you'll be able to like shed any light on this too, but like when these doctors give it to people, is that the only thing that they're manipulating? Because if they're not manipulating their food or like their total like energy output, they end up just skyrocketing that dose instead of, okay, we'll keep you at the
that's
same dose, we'll peel back your food a little bit, or we'll up the cardio or up your output in some way.
that's exactly why people run into issues, is because there is no consideration for the lifestyle. So that they have to increase the dose in order to cover their bases to get the results, right? Like they just it's not a great place to be. And when you take somebody that has no idea about nutrition, they're just eating the typical American diet. They're probably eating low to moderate protein, probably low protein, high carb, high fat, bunch of processed food. You give that person no guidance about nutrition and you put them on a GLP, they're just going to eat less of that, right? And so when they eat less of that, when they eat less of that, you know, while they were having a higher calorie intake, they may have been getting away with some accuracy by volume in terms of micronutrient intake, right? Because their calorie intake is so high that just because of that, they are accuracy by volume able to achieve a okay micronutrient intake. But when that gets squeezed down, when that appetite draws down and they're still eating the same way, but eating less, now we're running into micronutrient deficiencies. Now you're looking at the people that lose the muscle, that lose their hair, that get that Ozempic face, that look just not fucking right because they're essentially malnourished. You know what I mean? So I think
Yeah.
now a lot of doctors are better about it because they're getting more educated. But you know, there was a point in time when, yeah, it was just take this thing, we jack these doses up, and then that's it. You know, yeah,
Yeah. I mean, and that's kind of it. It's like only certain people I feel like can say that because it's going to be like, well, why would my doctor like it? Like it's a doctor, you know. And so it's like, why would just some random guy with a certificate, or you know, like, why would he be smarter than my doctor? Why would he know? And it's just like, I mean, that's just the way that they do it. But
sometimes,
like, I guess you have to
yes,
find out by, you know, listening to your
yeah.
doctor. I guess.
It's a slippery slope, like with clients, because you don't ever want to come off like you're trying to be a doctor, because I'm not a doctor. I don't want to
Right.
say I know more than your doctor, because I don't know more than your doctor. We know different things and we have different views on things. And so
Right.
what I'll oftentimes, if I have somebody in that situation, you know, I'll say, hey, I want you to take this to your doctor. Tell your doctor what I'm saying and see what they say. You know what I mean? Because you don't want to open yourself up to liability, like again trying to be a doctor. So all right, well, let's move on from that. Let's get into kind of what's going on with us. So you know, you have recently gone into a new job where you're working a full time, like 40 hours a week, right?
Yep.
And what are the hours that you work?
10 to 6,
10
10 p.m.
p.m.
to
to
6 a.m.
So how has that been? Like how has that transition working into those hours impacted your your lifestyle, like your coaching, your lifting? Talk to me about it.
Yeah, I kind of thought I've always been just like a night owl. Like I've always just liked doing my work like late at night. Like I've just liked being up at night. So I was like, oh, this will be a pretty easy like transition, and it's not. Like I'm making it work. Like I can do fine. Like it's more planning. It's more preparation. But like just being up at the nighttime and sleeping during the daytime, like it does like catch up to you at some point. And I mean that's just been the hardest part, honestly. Like I just feel like I'm just more tired throughout the day. Like usually I'm able to catch up on sleep like in the weekends and stuff, like whatever. But the weeks, you know, the weeks kind of drag a little bit.
So are you in a solidified schedule, like with your sleep, or is that something that you're still working on? Like, because you said like you catch up
Yeah,
on
I'm
sleep weekends, so that makes me think like, okay, well, on the weekdays, like maybe you're not actually in a set routine because you're gonna be fighting against your body's own biology. Like you're not supposed to be awake in in the evening like that.
yeah, yeah, like I'm not on a. I'm really not on a regular sleeping schedule. There's sometimes where I'll get home from work. I'll like make breakfast and I'll still have enough energy to just like go knock out my lift, and then I'm sleeping a little bit later during the day. Or there's times where I get home and I'm beat and I just go to sleep, and then we'll lift right before work or right when I get up. That's it's usually one of those two scenarios. And so yeah, it can kind of like be all over.
So so you have a partner. When are you normally spending time with your partner? Is that like a weekend thing, or is that like during the weekday? Because she's not on the same schedule as you. You know what I mean? So
Yeah, yeah, it's
obviously,
weekend.
if you see her on a weekday, that's going to be during a time that you should would normally be asleep, basically.
Yeah, yeah, it is all pretty much on the weekends because
Hmm.
my weekends like Friday morning, like 6 a.m. Like I don't work again until Sunday night, basically Monday morning. And so yeah, like my sleep schedule will be like normal on those days. I'll get to bed at like a decent time or whatever, but then yeah, starting back over on Monday, it's like from Monday to Thursday is just kind of like whatever, however I'm feeling.
Yeah.
But yeah,
So
like I said, like I'll just get in the gym on. I'll get in the gym like right after work or right before work, just whatever happens.
I have I've worked with a couple people that have shift work. I currently have one that just transitioned out of it, and the big thing with them is like you really need to commit to that schedule. Like you need to commit to being awake when you're supposed to be awake, which are your working hours, which is when most people are asleep now, and being asleep during the daytime, right? And if you have it where the weekdays you are on that schedule, but on the weekends you're not, you're just resetting every single week. It's just a reset. You know what I mean? So you're never going to actually be able to fall into that routine because you have Monday through Friday where it's you're in a good schedule, and then say Saturday and Sunday, now you're awake when you're supposed to be asleep, and asleep when you're supposed to be awake, and it's just a reset. But that's where it can be kind of hard because you're also talking about like managing relationships. You know what I mean? So again, like your partner, she's not on the schedule you're on. She's on the schedule everybody else is on. You know what I mean? So it can be hard to kind of to juggle all that stuff for sure. But I think that just drawing like a hard line in the sand, at least on the weekdays, is a good place to start. Where you just say like I train at this time. Like don't let that training time flip flop. And that might mean that on some training sessions, like if you train like right after work, sometimes you're just fucking dragging ass, you know what I mean? And all you want to do is go to bed, but like it just makes sense to eat a shit sandwich now and again, and in doing that, it'll give your body some time to actually set into the routine. But the more that you flip around, the harder it's going to be. And that's like even for me, like if I move my bedtime around a little bit, like I feel it, I feel it. And when I'm spot on, it's crazy. Like the last 2 days, like I've been pretty consistent with my bedtime. When I say pretty consistent, like I've been consistent. But the last 2 days, and I know I'm getting into a good groove when this starts happening, I just wake up at the same time, like before my alarm, 7:47 on the dot, 2 days in a row. Just said, boop, and just woke up. And that's the spot that you kind of want to get to, where your body is in a good routine, you're in a good rhythm, and everything is just on autopilot. But it takes stringing together 7, 10, 14 days of the same shit in order to have that happen.
Yeah, I play mind games with myself, like psychology things, because I think we're like, as coaches, like we're gonna work with people with schedules that are like all over the place. And so for me it's like, even if my schedule sometimes isn't like, I don't think really anyone's schedule that works like a full-time job, unless it's like concrete, like the same hours every day, there's no changing anything. Like things are just going to be up in the air sometimes, but like regardless, I'm still getting what I need to be, what needs to be done. I'm still getting it done. And it like I sometimes I really just don't care if I'm a little tired or like whatever. Like I make time for the things that matter, and I really don't. I can like go into things with like a grind mindset and being like, I'm gonna be tired, today's gonna suck, but like whatever, stuff's gonna get done, like, you know.
So I think that I was framing it from the perspective of like fitness, right? Where
Yeah.
you know there's I don't think anybody would argue with this. Like if you were to have 8 hours of sleep, right, in a day, but 8 consecutive hours, and compare that against somebody, an identical twin that has those same 8 hours of sleep, but it's broken up. They get 2 hours, they're up an hour. 2 hours, up an hour. 2 hours, up, right, right. This person that's getting 8 consecutive hours of sleep, they're going to make better progress. And I've just seen it over and over with clients, people that are all over the place with their schedule, with their routine. Their body never gets into a place where it can chill the fuck out and pick up some momentum and get into a good groove. So I think that, like, on one hand, it's like, yeah, I'm still getting all this stuff done. I'm still checking the boxes. But if you're in a spot where you are trying to progress your physique, you're trying to get lean, you're trying to put muscle on, the body loves, routine. You know what I mean? And I think it's really, really important actually to get into that routine, because your body needs that routine. You need that stable ground from which to grow off of. And if you don't have it, it's going to be like walking through sand 24/7.
Yeah, yeah, no, I agree. I was just coming from, like, that's just how I think of it, I guess. Like when I am feeling like I'm dragging ass, like it's like, well, I have clients and I'm gonna have clients that are like
I
having
understand.
the
Yeah.
same issues, the same problems that I have. So it's like, how am I navigating it? And then how can I help this client that I have also navigate the same issues? So
Right.
there
So
is
just
like
almost like
there's
leading
like
by
an
example. Like I'm gonna.
experience.
Yeah, I got you. I got you, for sure. Um, so
How do your clients manage it? Like, are they able to stay on like a consistent schedule for, the people that, if you have any that have the same work schedule that I do or around the same?
so most people that have like solidified careers or like that have been at a job for a while, they're on the same schedule every single day. You know what I mean? Most people that are
Yeah.
working full time, they're on a set in stone schedule. But I have two clients where it's all over the place. It's literally all over the place. And so, and it's because they both have multiple jobs. So it's just all over the place. It's not one job, they're bouncing around. And so for them, kind of what I just end up focusing on, because a set in stone schedule is out of my hands. I can't, no matter how much I tell them, hey, lock in a schedule, it doesn't matter because their schedule is literally not set in stone. You know what I mean? So for
Hmm.
them, that's where I just have to make sure I stay on them about the time that they do have to sleep. And that's where, in the spreadsheet with the check ins, looking at how much sleep time you have, you know what I mean? And making sure that you are getting an adequate amount of sleep. And if I can at least do that, at least stay on top of the hours of sleep on average that they're getting across the week, that's all I can do. You know what I mean? But I'm always like, you ask any of my clients, I'm always like, anytime sleep is not where it should be, I'm trying to figure out like, well, what can we do? Like, and try to pick this apart and really, and this is the truth with most people, like in myself, 100% myself, like if you really break down your day to day and all the minutes you have in the day, there's wild inefficiencies. There's going to be wild inefficiencies throughout the day, right? And so sometimes it does take going through what you're actually doing on a day to day with a fine tooth comb to understand that. You know what I mean? Because on the surface level, it can seem like I'm just busy, I have no time, you know? But when you really start going through it, it's like, okay, well, I'm wasting X amount of time here. Screen time shows I've got this amount of time on social media, like all these different things. And, you know, sometimes if you are in a spot where you're really trying to juggle multiple things and you're trying to progress your physique, like you really have to sit down and go through it with a fine tooth comb and figure out how can I be as efficient as possible, because I need every minute of every day. I need this to count, you know? So that's just kind of how I look at it. At the bare minimum, I'm just wanting to make sure that we are getting in adequate hours of sleep. And if it's somebody that is on a timeline where I need to make sure that their body is really, really in a good spot, then I'll start going through it with a fine tooth comb and really trying to dig into it and figure out, like, let's get down to it and figure out where can we optimize. You know what I mean? Nothing is too small. With sleep, 5 minutes of extra sleep is not too small. Anything and everything matters.
Yeah. Yeah, that's spot on. And that's something I'm getting better with, you know, the weeks go, it's like where are little pockets of time where I can get a little bit more work done, or, you know, yeah, like get a little bit more sleep. I have some time here. It's like I was sitting chilling before work for an hour. It's like, could that time be used for prepping meals for the next day, or just trying to
On
find little
that,
pockets of time to be productive?
that's something that I wanted to ask you. So, like, before you started this job, you were probably cooking meals fresh.
Yeah.
Yeah? So you were just like cooking meal as you go throughout the day, cooking meals fresh, right? And so
Yeah.
now what's the setup for food? Do you have to, is it like a 1 day per week that you, like one big day that you meal prep? Like, how do you go about it?
Yeah, there will be. I'll prep like, well, all of my meals right now are pretty like bare bones. Like I'm not so wrapped up in like making it taste good and it being like this big fancy thing. Like I just care about hitting the
You're in fucking
macros. Like
grind mode
sometimes
right
I,
now. You
yeah,
sound
that's
like
what
you're
it
in
is.
grind
Like
mode right now. Yeah. Yeah.
like
Okay.
yesterday for breakfast I had a pita and like whatever, like 60 grams of protein from tuna. Like it literally doesn't make any sense. But like that's really all I care about, is just like whatever I'm tired, or like I have to get to the gym, whatever it is. So I don't care about making this big fancy tasty meal. Like just get the food in me and dip. Like it
No, that makes perfect sense. So what was the meal? Tuna and what?
was like a tuna and like a pita bread.
Okay, protein and carbs.
Yep.
Yeah, protein and carbs. Yeah, it makes perfect sense. So that is something I tell clients is like, it doesn't matter where I find myself. My refrigerator, my freezer could shit on me and I wake up, all my food's bad. I'm traveling. I don't have any food on me. I didn't bring any food. It doesn't matter. Guess what? I'm going to be able to figure it out. And that might mean that I have to eat a can of tuna and a banana. That might mean I
Right.
have to, do some really strange stuff, like that meals that maybe on paper don't make sense. But like there is always a way to pivot and just make sure that you get in what you're supposed to get in. Like we've got these phones, man. We've got these phones, and on these phones they have things called apps, and these apps can tell you how many calories and carbs and proteins and fats are in food. And from that point, it's just a matter of crunching numbers and just figuring it out. and just making it work. And sometimes it needs to be bare bones. Just keep it super, super simple. And one thing that kind of messes me up is like, people that will say, well, I didn't have time to meal prep, so I just ate off plan. But it's like, you still ate. You still ate some food. Like, you could have just eaten like the food that you were supposed to eat, or figured out something that is in line with your plan. Like, you didn't just not eat, you know what I mean? So like, figure it
Yeah.
out, you know?
Yeah, and I think sometimes, like I find myself, there's like friction with making the answer seem that like not seem easy or like obvious, but it's like it just sounds like I'm telling someone to like suck it up. Like if it's a client, you know what I'm saying? Oh, they didn't have the food options that you wanted or whatever it was, so I just ate whatever, and it's like, well, they probably had a carb source. There was probably a fat source, or yeah, like you said, like you could have looked something up and figured it out. But like they're expecting the answer to be this like super hard to figure out thing, and it's like, no, literally figure it out. I don't care if it doesn't make sense, but like you just had 1,000 calorie meal. It's like,
Right.
and they're
Yeah.
expecting it to be this like this big in depth thing where, oh yeah, your hands were tied. It's like they weren't. Like there's ways to navigate this. If like I think if you really wanted to figure it out, you would have.
I think the truth lies in in psychology a little bit, where I was just having this conversation with the client, but I always say, like, stay away from all or nothing. Stay away from all or nothing, because the person that is all or nothing, they're going to wait until everything is perfectly aligned to take action. And while they're waiting, they could have just fucking started. They could have started making progress instead of waiting for it to be perfectly aligned, for the perfect moment, for things to be perfect. No, just start. Just figure out how to make it work. And also, the person that is all or nothing, the second that things become misaligned, they're going to go to nothing. They're going to say, oh, it's not the way it's supposed to be. The next option is just nothing. And when you find yourself in that mentality, it's a cycle. It's a cycle of start, restart, back to the fucking beginning, over and over and over. And you find yourself getting nowhere. So you just have to be able to pivot and adjust no matter what comes up, and not listen to the little devil on your shoulder, because that's what it is. The little devil is saying, oh, you didn't meal prep, so just go ahead and get McDonald's. It's okay because you didn't have meal prep, right? No, 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 no. The whole reason you didn't prep your food is your fault in the fucking first place. So don't
Yeah.
listen to this guy. Figure out how to correct the mistake that you made in the first place. And that might mean eating a fucking can of tuna with some olive oil and a pita. You know what I mean? It's not what you
Yeah.
want to do, but that's what you
Exactly.
got. You know what I mean? So,
Yeah.
on that topic of being able to shift, being able to adapt, so I am going to be entering parenthood like in a couple days, okay? And through this process, like over the last couple months, everybody's like, are you ready for your world to be fucking rocked? Like, you're not going to be able to do all these things that you want to do or that you've been doing. Like, it's just going to be, people are just, they are giving me what their experience was, essentially.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? That once they had a child, that the things that were important to them, they changed. You know what I mean? And they had to live life in a different way. And that's not me. That's not what I'm going to do. I'm not going to get out of shape. I'm not going to stop working out. I'm not going to do anything other than exactly what I want to do. And what I want to do is raise this child right and still honor my own goals and the lifestyle that I like to live. Because if I get away from my lifestyle, I will not be the best parent for this child. So there is nothing more important to me. And so behind me, talking about pivoting and planning and adjusting, I have over the last several months started putting together a home gym because I know I'm not going to be able to get into the gym the way that I want to. So I bring the gym to me. You know what I mean? I bring the gym to
Yeah.
me so that I have no excuse. I can get down here and train whenever I want. I've got my cardio set up. And I have the luxury too of being able to work from home. But still, if I had to go out for work, I would do the same thing. I would set my environment up, to be successful. And I think that is the difference between somebody that if you care enough, you'll figure out a way to get it done. Basically, if you care enough, if it's important enough to you, you'll figure out a way to get it done.
Yeah, and I think with fitness and like you being a coach, like I've seen how you're there for your clients, right? Like these people, like they like look up to you, like you have to have answers for certain things. Like there's gonna be like a lot of like carryover just in the things that you've learned from fitness that you've gained from like being a coach that are gonna make you like a great dad. You know what I'm saying? Like you have to have the
Sure.
answers. You have to be there for people. Like showing up to the gym when you really don't want to, and like having obligations. Having to get up to change a diaper or something like that. I think there what we learn from fitness and from coaching. Like there's so many instances in our life outside of the gym that are gonna carry over to make things manageable and like make us like good at it too, you know?
100%. 100%. There's so many lessons that you can learn from, being in a successful cut, being in a successful bodybuilding competition prep. Like all of these things, they do have carryover into the real world. If you're looking for it. So, and yeah, with this next
Yeah, I don't
leg
think I
of or
think
next chapter in my
sorry, go
life.
ahead.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
I don't think like anyone that knows you would like expect you to like fall out of shape or anything like that. Like you would be the dude that's like, yeah, I have a kid, like life is kind of like different or a little different now, scheduling and stuff, but like you're the dude that's going to figure it out, like lead by example.
I've had a couple clients ask me because I keep them in the loop, and so everybody knows what's happening, and they're like, you know, so like how is basically asking like how is communication going to be when after you have a kid, like in that first week, 2 weeks, whatever. And I was like, business as usual, like literally business is fucking usual. Like it has to be for me. It has to be because the devil on the shoulder, if I listen to that devil on my shoulder and say, you just had a kid, you haven't slept, and that is the reason for you to say, hey guys, I can't get to your check-ins, or I'm gonna be, late or whatever. It'll spiral, dude. Like that shit will infect other areas, and it's a slippery slope. So for me, it's better to just say, you know what? I don't care how it plays out. I'm gonna have to figure this out, because at the end of the day, you're paying me for a service, and in the same way that I would tell you, like, hey, let's figure this out, I have to do that for myself and lead as an example. So outside of like on the day that my partner gives birth, outside of that day, business as usual. And I have to frame it that way in my own mind because, again, like if I don't, I'll listen to that little devil on my shoulder, and it just will lead me nowhere great. You know what I mean? Um, so yeah, that's just kind of how I'm framing it in my head, and also the fact that I've been thinking about this. You know what I mean? Like I've been thinking about how this is going to play out, visualizing it. How do I want this to play out, and understanding like I have a game plan. This all is a game plan. You know what I mean? And maybe it doesn't
Yeah.
follow my exact game plan, but again, I'm going to be able to adapt. I'm going to be able to. I'm ready for it. In short, I'm ready for it.
Yeah, yeah. No, that's it. That's such a like I'm excited for you. Honestly, I'm excited for you. Is there, I guess, on a more like personal note, is there anything like you? I don't know how I want to ask this. Like, I guess, are there anything? Is there anything from like your childhood, like, or that you like were brought up on that like you also want to like, you know, build with your son? Like, any similarities, any things that you want to carry over that you learned, you know, like, and give to him?
It's a really good question. So, my dad growing up was like ultimate, like, I had absolute faith in my dad at all points in time. Like, he was always the person that I would look to for guidance. Like, he was a very strong father figure, very confident. Like, he was just like hero dad. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
strong. He was athletic. Um, and the thing about my dad is, and this is something that I have taken from my dad and had to fine hone a little bit, but my dad is a very blunt person. Like, very, very, very blunt. He will just tell you what it is. Um, my dad like knew everybody because he would always be at the park playing basketball, out and about. Everybody just seemed to know my dad. And I remember, a bunch of instances like growing up where my dad was like having a conversation with somebody and would just basically, you know how like you might be having a conversation with your friend and they're like, yeah, you're right. Like you're unloading on them about a situation that happened. And they're like, yeah, you're right, man. That's messed up. Like, and they're kind of like, like being a friend.
Yeah.
My dad is the type of person that would be like, no, you are wrong in this in this situation, and call you out, and just flat out be like, nope, you fucked up, not the other way around.
Yeah.
And people would be like, you know what, you're right, and like respect that. And like my dad just got away with saying shit that nobody else would say, but it was the way that he said it, where he said it in such a way where you knew it was genuine. It wasn't meant to be an insult. It wasn't meant to hurt your feelings. It was meant like in just pure honesty. You know what I mean? And so that is something that I have taken from my dad because I've just seen like people respect that honesty. And you got to be nowadays, like you got to be a little bit more delicate with just saying what you want to say. You need to deliver it correctly, but that is something that I want to instill in my child, because I just want to be able to steer him in the right direction. I want to be able to tell him when he's genuinely done good and be able to tell him when he needs to do better, instead of just pat on the back, everything's going to be all right. Like, no, I want to give that to him the same way that my dad gave that to me, because I think it's a good trait to have. But outside of that, man, like I just want to raise a good human being. Like, you know what I mean? I just
Yeah.
want to raise a
Yeah.
good human being. And I think that just boils down to, nurturing the relationship and teaching them right from wrong. And, yeah, I don't know. There's a lot that I don't know. And I'm just, again, I'm going to figure it out as I go.
Yeah. And they're so I keep bringing everything back to like to coaching because like that's another area where like we have to be like solid at is like getting the point across, just being able to just be honest, like flat out about it. And like, like I heard someone say like part of being a coach is being like the realest person that someone has in their life, like. And
Yeah. Yeah.
like that is it's so true. And like that's something that I have to like we're all human, right? So like sometimes the truth isn't what you want to hear, and but like there's really no other way to put it. And You know, like things just have to be said the way that they have to be said.
Yeah. Yeah. It's something that took me a long time in coaching to be able to get to that point because you're worried about pissing your client off. You're worried about them leaving. You know what I mean? But it's in the delivery. Like you ultimately have to tell them like, hey, like we are on the same team. I want you to win because if you win, I win. Like I'm not telling you this to hurt your feelings. I'm telling you this because it's the fucking truth. And this is what it is. And it's I would be doing a disservice to you to not bring it up in this way, sharp,
Right.
straight to the point. Any sugarcoating,
Right.
dancing around it, left, right. No, we need to hit this head on. This is what it is. I know it stings, but the whole reason that I'm touching on this is because the only way to improve on it is to address it. You can't fix problems that you don't acknowledge. You know what I mean? So the first step, number one, is just fucking acknowledge it. Just be like, yep, this thing's an issue, and now I can start figuring out what do I need to do to address the issue.
And oftentimes it's the sugar coating that landed them in that position, anyways.
Yeah,
You know.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So
All right.
I
I
mean,
think
yeah. Go ahead.
I think we're in a good spot. I know that got to get to work and stuff, so I don't want to hold you too long. We're about at that hour mark. So, you got anything else you want to add?
Nah, like that. That was like a great conversation. Honestly, it was a good pod.
Yeah, this one was different. It was just kind of we went on a couple of different tangents, but just having a conversation, you know, that's all I want to do. So hopefully, you guys were
Yeah.
able to find some value out of this stuff, and we'll see you on the next one.
So yo.
See you.